So Apple Silicon was released just over a year ago. I've had to wait patiently, but in the last couple of days, I've finally taken delivery of a 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro. And this is a video about my first 48 hours with it and how I found it. Hi there guys, I'm David. We talk tech here on the channel every week. If you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a great time to do it. And maybe drop me a like as well if you're enjoying these videos so we can help grow this community. So it was on my birthday earlier this year, back in March, I finally made a decision and the choice to get a MacBook Pro. It seemed I've been looking at it forever and trying to make the right decision wasn't easy. Where did I start? There was the 24-inch iMac with the M1 chip, still a great machine and a bargain price actually. You've got the Mac Mini. I bought all the other peripherals to go with it. That could be a great choice as well. MacBook Pros, you've got the 14-inch and the 16-inch, and just as I was making a decision, around about March time, we had the Mac Studio that came out as well. So where should my money go? And not only that, once you decided on what machine you got, then you've got to decide on unified memory. 8, 16, 32, 64 gigs of unified memory. How much storage should I have? Should it be 512? All the way up to 8 terabytes. All these decisions had to be factored in, and I wanted to make the right choice. Hopefully this machine is going to last me at least for the next 5 years of my working life. And I wanted to make sure that I was future-proofed as well. Now, the pandemic had taught me a couple of lessons. It certainly has changed the way that I view working. I've been a sort of guy that got up every day and gone out the door to the office and always gone out away from home to work. And then during the pandemic, I suddenly realized, maybe that's just another way of working that doesn't suit me anymore. Everything's changed. I'm sure it's happened for you too. The pandemic taught me many lessons. I don't know how it was for you. Let me know in the comments, but it seems the way that I'm working now is going to be very different to the future. So whereas I'd always gone for a large iMac, a 27-inch iMac generally, the one you can see there, and I'd even got a 21.5-inch iMac that I basically just used for emails. I'd always been about desktops and big screens, but with the future looking like it's going to be different, I knew that a MacBook Pro seemed to be the way forward. They're more powerful than any Mac that I've had, albeit in a laptop. The Mac Studio was too expensive. It was just the wrong machine for me. It was almost too powerful for what I needed. And it was going to prove more expensive, spec'd up like for like, than the MacBook Pro that I went with. So I decided that for the first time ever, I was going to go for a smaller form factor, buy the MacBook Pro. I've got a Studio display on order too. That's not with me yet. But it gives me the best of both worlds, it seems. I think I can work anywhere now. I've got plenty of storage on this machine. I've got all the power I could ever need. So I can go and work absolutely efficiently, any desk, any location, any office, anywhere, any day of the week without the need to take external storage with me, without even needing to take a power brick with me. Everything is there in the MacBook Pro. So the choice I've made is this one. It's an M1 Max 16-inch with, well, now actually it's got 4 terabytes of storage in and 32 gigs of unified memory. I had ordered it with 2 terabytes, but Apple let me down. They sent me an email last week saying my machine had been pushed back until at least July. I did some phoning around and I was very lucky. I found one place in the UK that had one machine, the only difference being that it was 4 terabytes rather than 2 terabytes. So I thought it's going to future-proof me even more. I paid the money and I took delivery of it a couple of days ago. So now I'm going to tell you about how I found it in the setup. The first 48 hours working on a brand new Apple Silicon machine. My first time working on Apple Silicon. I've been Apple and Intel all these years. So how did I find it? It's actually been a few years since I set a Mac up from new. And every time I do it, it just seems to get easier and easier and easier. I wasn't looking forward to setting this up, if truth be known. The 27-inch you see there, I remember I bought it and I had it sitting for at least a month before I even got it out of the box because I just knew it was going to be so arduous. It's going to be a real mountain to climb trying to get everything on there and working. But over these intervening years, it's got so much easier to set a Mac up. So what I decided to do, with the help of you guys, you've been brilliant. We've been talking about it on this channel over the last month or so. I did a clean installation. I didn't copy anything over from another Mac. I literally opened it up out of the box, got onto the Wi-Fi, and then one by one, I put on everything that I needed. For me, it started with putting the Adobe Creative Cloud desktop app on there, and then I got the apps down that I need. Premiere Pro, obviously, Audition, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, and Acrobat. Those were the things I brought down first of all. Then I put Ulysses on there for writing my blogs. And one by one, I just began building the Mac up to the kind of machine that I wanted. It needed to start earning money quickly, so I didn't want it to be sitting around for too long. It was a long Sunday, but it actually went really, really well. It was so stress-free, I can't believe it. I then put on the various audio plugins. I use Waves a lot, so I put on Wave Central on there. Then I loaded up all of my audio plugins. So the idea being that from now on, everything you hear and see on this channel or on the podcast, my Minus 16 podcast, is all going to be produced on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And so far, I've got to say, the experience has been wonderful. It was a long Sunday, as I say, but so worth it. So as of recording this video, my first full working day on that MacBook Pro was yesterday. I'd heard so much about the battery life. I'm not sure what to make of that yet. I think it's as good as I kept hearing, but I have had to charge it, which kind of surprised me. Now, okay, I did have a fairly intense morning on it yesterday. I was working in InDesign, Photoshop, and a little bit of Premiere Pro. And I have to say, the whole time through, it was quiet. The fans didn't crack up once, and it wasn't even warm to the touch. That was as every bit as good as I'd heard. It was beautifully quiet. I'd forgotten how loud those Intel machines were. The 15-inch MacBook Pro that I had been using quite a lot, the fans on that would crack on as soon as you opened up any kind of document. So to be working quietly all day long was a real treat. So that was great. But the battery, don't get me wrong, I say I had to charge it. It still had juice left in it. It probably would have got me through till later on in the day if I'd just been doing general kind of office, emailing, spreadsheet kind of work. But most of the time that I'm working, it's in one of the Creative Cloud apps. So it tends to be a little bit more intensive. So I did have to charge it. But then again, as I say, it was about 4 or 5 hours of work. And even then, it probably, I'm guessing, had about a third of the battery left. So it did a lot of work. So maybe I was expecting too much of the battery. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But that was the only thing I kind of noticed. I'm no typist, but I have to say this keyboard is beautiful. It's so balanced and it's so easy to type on. It was an absolute joy. So although I'm still just a 2-finger kind of plodder, albeit fairly fast 2 fingers, I'm no touch typist, but I did notice how beautiful the keyboard was. Now, you'll know that I'm an audio man as well. I sit in this studio for hour after hour with studio monitors around me in a reasonably well sound-treated room. But I've got to say, the speakers that I'd heard so much about on the MacBook Pro, they're not bad at all, you know? No, I wouldn't want to edit a podcast on them. I wouldn't want to edit the audio for these videos on them. But for sitting and consuming content, listening to Spotify, listening to Apple Music, watching YouTube, the speakers are really good. They're fairly bassy. They've got nice mids, fairly crisp upper end. Really enjoyable. You would not have a problem with sitting and listening to these speakers all day long. So the whole user experience of this MacBook, from setting up to everything just installing really simply, bar one little problem with Premiere Pro, but I don't think that's anything to do with the Mac. I think it's a glitch in Premiere that I'm trying to get to the bottom of. But other than that, it's been a brilliant experience these first couple of days. Everything I went to use yesterday just worked. Photoshop was perfect. InDesign was perfect. I found that obviously the speed of these machines is phenomenal. The amount of, when you're using the internal storage, opening up documents is just amazing. Opening up a big multi-layered Photoshop document was an absolute joy. And that I did notice a difference on. So the first day of working, yep, everything I'd hoped it would be, and probably a little bit better than I thought it would be as well. So as I say, I come from a background of large Macs, 27-inch iMacs, and I was really keen to see if working on a 16-inch was going to feel really small and just feel very confined and trapped. And I've got to say, at the end of yesterday, it didn't. Most of the work I do is fairly intensive in the kind of work that I'm having to look at. So working on a smaller screen was something I was concerned about. But I realized by the end of the day, my eyes weren't any more tired than working on a bigger display. Somehow that 16-inch display just feels that little bit bigger. I don't know how, but it does. And it's a beautiful panel. I mean, it's actually a better panel, of course, than the studio display that I've got coming. As I mentioned, that studio display could still be up to a month away. And I think that's a good thing because it's going to get me used to working on this smaller screen. This video that you're watching now will be the very first video that I've ever edited on the 16-inch screen. So that'll be a test to see how I feel the timeline is working in something that's really intense on a smaller screen, but I'm expecting good things of it. And if I feel then by the time the studio display arrives that I'm happy working on this, that will prove that I've made the right decision because it shows that I can be truly mobile. I can be a blogger and a video editor anywhere I like. I've got so much storage in here. I haven't got to take external drives with me. I can work on everything I want to work with on this machine with 4 terabytes of storage. I've got loads of space of storage on here. So I can do anything that I want. Then finally, I can export it over to RAIDs afterwards to archive and back up. But I can go anywhere and work on any document, Photoshop, InDesign, Premiere Pro, Adobe Audition, you name it. I can work on any of those kind of files on this new machine anywhere. All I need basically is an internet connection and I'm good to go. So I'm hoping that over this next little period of time before the studio display arrives, it actually really does prove to me that I've made the right decision. So if you've come from Intel over to Apple Silicon, how did you find it? And was the experience everything you'd hoped for? For me, I got to the end of yesterday and I almost felt this sense of anticlimax. And I was trying to think why. Was it that I was disappointed in the MacBook or not? And then it came to me this morning when I was writing a blog. It's not that at all. In fact, it's the absolute opposite. It was too good. The first day of using it, I was in Premiere Pro, Photoshop and InDesign, and it didn't break a sweat. I didn't hear it at all. It didn't get warm. I charged it once halfway through the day. And even then, probably I could have got away without charging it. It did everything I could throw at it on day one. And so I've never been the sort of person that's enjoyed using a new computer, oddly, because it doesn't feel like it's yours. This, on the other hand, everything worked. Okay, I'm reaping the rewards of a long Sunday, loading it all up. But the machine behind me was wonderful. It was quick, it was efficient, and it was everything I'd hoped for. It's only going to get better now, I think, as I build up that relationship with it, if you understand what I mean, as I get used to working with it. I don't feel that I'm going to struggle too much with the smaller screen, which is great. That will open up a whole new world of working opportunities for me. No longer will I feel that I have to sit here and do the post-editing in a studio. I can sit anywhere because I can leave the file on the desktop. It's got so much storage, 4 terabytes of storage on there. I can work on these files anywhere. And that goes for Photoshop, Adobe Audition. I can work on any of these files anywhere and edit anywhere. I really do think I've made the right choice. Have you gone from a desktop to a laptop? Has it opened up new doors to you? Do you feel your life has changed? I'd love to hear what your experiences have been. But so far, 48 hours in, setting up was wonderful. The keyboard is fantastic. The speakers are everything I'd heard of. The speed, fantastic. It is quiet. And okay, the battery life maybe wasn't as astounding as I'd heard. But when you think how much it was doing and how little I was having to plug it in, to be honest, everything you've heard about these MacBook Pros is true. Apple Silicon and a MacBook Pro is a dream come true. It's changed your life. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that's got across to you what it's like switching from Intel to Apple Silicon. If you're thinking of doing it, all I can say to you is do it. You will not be disappointed. It's a life changer. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch you in the next video.